Hello, everybody. Welcome and thank you so much for joining me today. For today's video, I want to do something a little bit different. I want to do a self-reflection of my time as a Tesla investor through my first bear market, which I think is the first one for a lot of people, in hopes that it's helpful, in hopes that what I share here today is something that will help somebody, or maybe, for those that are having a really tough time through this market, it helps them kind of think about where they are in their investing journey and figuring out ways to maybe get better. Perhaps, trying to figure out ways on how to make the next bear market a little bit easier to go through, because obviously the stock market ain't it's not going to keep going up always. And I think we've learned that hard lesson during this period. So without further ado, let's get into it. And we'll start with the lessons. So what are the things that I've learned through this bear market that might be helpful for other Tesla investors? So first one, macro environment is king, right? Regardless of how well the company is doing, regardless of how well the company is going to potentially execute in upcoming quarters, regardless of how brilliant the team is and the leader is, and regardless how passionate the investing base is behind it, if macro is not doing well, it's very likely that the company you're invested in is not going to do well. And Tesla is a perfect example. If we think about sort of the performance of the company in the last, say, year, about a year ago, we were at all-time highs as a company, and really things have gotten better since that point. There's more profits, there's more cars, there's more products being unveiled, but the stock is basically cut in half. So it's reflective of the macro environment. It's the fact that if there's, if the economy, if the Fed, if the macroeconomics are just not in favor of companies to really be highlighted in the things that they're doing well, it seems like every single company is going to suffer. And I think the best way to put it is, perhaps in a bull market, if a company has a lot of prospects and they're doing really, really well, then it's very easy for people to say, hey, I'm going to invest in this company because it's obvious how well they're going to do. But in a bear market where the macro environment is not going to be, say, friendly to those kinds of companies, it doesn't matter how much prospects you have in the future, you're going to be beholden to how the how the macro views certain companies. So that was a big wake-up call for me. It doesn't really matter how good the company is or you think it is. If the macro says no, it's no. And it is what it is, right? So we just have to learn how to navigate that. So that was the first big lesson for me. The second one is big money is risk averse. And so what I mean by this is, obviously, you think about the stock market. The stock market is a place where people trade stocks. People with money that want to buy stocks, buy it from people that have the stocks. And what appears to be the case, and this is sort of an inkling that I've had obviously for a long time, and I think many of us have, but I think it's displayed in a macroeconomic environment that's not, very sure, or is plagued by a bunch of different things like the Russia-Ukraine war and high interest rates and so on and so forth, is folks that have a lot of money are going to be the ones that are going to have an outsized impact on the stock market. And so if people with most of the money tend to not want to risk their money, then what's going to happen is you're not going to have as much risk taking on buying stocks. And so the buying pressure comes down dramatically, right? So it's like no other situation where you think about somebody that has gathered a lot of wealth, has gathered a lot of money. They have every single right to treat that money however they want. But it's, I think it's a very logical thing to do to try and preserve wealth through a downturn and not try to take risks. And I think it's displayed in this bear market. And that's why we've been coming down. So in my head, again, it doesn't matter how good the company is or how well it's going to perform. If the players in the market that have a lot of the money are not going to be willing to take risks when the economy seems to not be doing as great as it should, or there are outside factors that are influencing those decisions, then those are going to be the folks that are going to be really dictating how the market behaves. And so keeping that in mind is very, very important, and really analyzing the surroundings around that dynamic could prove, to be a way for finding opportunities. But the time horizon, I think, expands dramatically. It's no longer, hey, I think I'm going to make money in 1 to 2 years. It's, hey, I might make money in 5 years because I don't know where the bottom is, right? So that was another a lesson and reinforcement that you have to keep that in mind when you're investing in the stock market. It's very, very important. And I think it's another credence that says, That's why long-term investing is much better than short-term investing, so that you can survive those moments where the ones that have the biggest votes, the most money, are making decisions to preserve their wealth, which is they have every right to do. And that's how free market society works. So that's another lesson I learned, and reinforcement. The next one is, in a bear market, short term is more important than long term. And we see that in the stock market, right? If people are afraid that the economy is not doing well, if people are afraid that, the Fed increasing rates is going to somehow influence their pocketbook negatively, if we have war, that's, the worst thing about that is people's lives, forget the money. But if it does somehow impact folks' ability to, say, purchase energy, or trade gets impacted in some way, then short term becomes very, very important, because folks are much more worried about existential threats than maybe potential investments. So you're going to have actions, I think, from the market that are going to try and preserve that wealth. And so that might mean selling stocks that are more risky, putting their money in things that are tried and true, that will, most likely not diminish in value, like gold and perhaps some currencies and other things, right? So in a bear market, in the sort of macro environment that we're in, what I think I learned is, yeah, you can always say long-term investment is super, super, super important, but short-term is going to dictate what happens. And because we're in a bear market, short-term means it goes down. So psychologically speaking, what does that mean? What kind of impact does that have to somebody, right? So, and sort of the second half of the video, I'll go through some of the changes I'm going to make for the next bear market and how to better deal with that. And I'll cover that a little bit more on the next part of the video. But it's very obvious in a bear market, short-term trumps all, and anybody, people can say, including myself, think long-term, think long-term. Yeah, I can say it. But the market doesn't care. It doesn't care. And that's a very important thing, I think, for all of us to keep in mind as we're making our investing decisions. And then the last one for the lessons, and it's, again, a reminder. Again, I've been investing in Tesla since 2012. And yeah, of course, I think I've made decent decisions to put myself where I am today. I'm at no risk of, losing my house or anything like that. I'm very lucky and blessed to say that. But it's a reminder that outsized gains, finding opportunities that are going to have a large impact to you in the future, is hard. It's so hard. And I think it's less about finding the opportunities. It's much more about surviving the moments, surviving the times where, even though you have it in your head that this is totally going to work in the long term, and it's for sure a success, and you're telling yourself, how can nobody else see this, right? The stock market doesn't care. In the bear market, doesn't care. It just doesn't care. So persevering through those moments is very, very difficult. I'm still improving in how to separate emotion from investing. I'm trying my best to put myself in a situation where the mental is not impacted by what's going on in the market, but it is difficult, because you're like asking yourself, when is this thing going to turn? We finally got some good news this morning about the inflation finally coming down and the Fed potentially doing a pivot. That feels like a giant relief, but why should it, right? So that means that I haven't prepared my mental enough, or just the journey that we're on right now through this bear market is that impactful that something like that, I'm like, okay, that's a huge relief. We're going to be able to kind of see some improvements. But, it's hard. It's very, very hard. And I think because, a lot of us are human and we're subject to emotions. You can be blue in the face to do everything you can to make yourself as secure as humanly possible from a financial perspective. But nobody likes seeing their assets being cut in half. Who likes to see that? So it's very difficult. It's a reminder. Anything that is super valuable long term, I've learned in my life, I think is one of the hardest things you can do, and it always takes 10 times longer to achieve than you would want. But that's just part of the deal. And again, it's just a reminder and a continued lesson for me that, hey, this is the kind of dynamic you're dealing with. You can be blue in the face in saying, hey, this is going to work. This is going to work long term, and it might. And in the case of Tesla, I have high confidence it will. But the short term is very difficult. And it's just part of the journey. And so if you feel that way, you're not alone. I feel exactly the same way, right? And I hope that helps. I hope that helps in you knowing that even a YouTuber like myself who's talking about Tesla investing and, I've done well for myself and I'm very fortunate and lucky with my life. It sucks, bro. It sucks. But I think being honest in that, I think is important because then we can take steps to get better mentally for the next bear market that comes down the pike. If it's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, who knows how long it's going to take. But I think it's very important for us to be very honest with ourselves with that. So hopefully that's helpful to y'all. If you like what you're seeing so far, throw me a like. I would love it. If you do that, it helps YouTube show this to more people that may enjoy it. Thank you very much. Subscribe. If you want to support the channel, there's stuff in the description for that as well. But just wanted to take a couple seconds to say that. Thank you so much for watching, by the way. I really appreciate you guys. So what are the changes I'm going to make for the next bear market? So what are the things I'm thinking about to, do better? This is my first one. I've discovered some vulnerabilities in my approach. I think, if we're all trying to get better as human beings, it's very important to be self-reflective. I've been very fortunate to talk to a lot of really smart people on this channel that have helped me think through that. And I want to take that knowledge that I've sort of put together in my brain and pass it on to you. If it's helpful, great. If it's not helpful, sorry for wasting your time. But at the very least, I hope there's some sort of connection that helps you sort of think through your process. So number one, the right sizing for mental fortitude is so freaking important. And I've talked about this in my channel before. So what I mean by this is getting yourself in a financial situation so that you can survive those tough moments, those very, very difficult moments where, you are invested in something that you really believe in, but the market doesn't think so. And it doesn't need to be dire, right? For you to wait for this thing to survive. So the way I'm thinking about this is, okay, so when I right size my portfolio and I right size, say, my cash balance and whatever, I think I could have done a better job in gauging how, say, quote unquote, long this bear market was going to take and how beat up Tesla was going to get. Because in my head, I'm like, there's no way Tesla's going to be a 20 PE ratio company anytime in the future. It's going to take 5-10 years. So the discount the market's going to give it is going to be, it can't be that large. Lo and behold, Tesla has a forward PE of 20 or something, or 25 into next year. A year ago, I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But guess what? The market did it. So how do you prepare for that? So for me, it's like, okay, so how do I make myself mentally more okay with that? I've right-sized my cash, my cash, my income streams. In my head, that's going to help me be comfortable, say, if Tesla went down to like a 50 PE. But if it's down to a 25 PE, if I don't have cash to buy, that's a gigantic missed opportunity, right? So in my head, I'm like, okay, so even though I'm fine financially, thank goodness, roof over my head, we can do what we want, we're fine sort of, into the future, but I can't really take advantage of this opportunity. So what are the things I'm going to change? I'm going to increase, probably double my cash reserves from what I've done based on this sort of bear market. And I'm going to dramatically increase my income streams, right? So how can I capitalize on these bear markets? I buy stock, I buy assets, right? And I'm beating myself up so much that I haven't built myself in that way. Doing, I can pay for trips, I can pay for food, I can pay for blah, but I can't buy stock because I have a certain, lifestyle that I've chosen that I want to live. And I'm like, well, crap, if it means I'm going to remove that lifestyle for the stock, I could do it, but I also really value that lifestyle where I am in my life right now. So it's like, crap, I wish I had more money to buy. So that's a big change. And I hope that's helpful for you. And I'm trying to be as transparent as humanly possible so that if you feel that way too, it's okay. Like, I feel like a lot of us feel that way, and it's important to be transparent with that. So that's one of my biggest lessons, is like, invest in a bigger cash balance and invest in more income streams. That's a bigger shovel, right? So I'm trying to figure out ways that I can create an income stream. I have my merch store. If you like to support the channel through that, beautiful. I would love it. I want to make really good stuff for you. I'm thinking of other different ways to generate income, that's maybe related to YouTube or other things. But anyway, I hope that's helpful. That's the really big change that I'm going to make. The second one is sympathy. So what do I mean by this? Especially now that I'm on YouTube and I'm making they're not, obviously none of this is investment advice. God, please I'm just telling you my side of things. I hope you're not making any financial decisions on this, but I think there needs to be more sympathy, especially in the Tesla community, for those that may have arrived, say in the last couple of years to the Tesla story, that are down big in this time, right? And so I think one of the things that I could do better moving forward is, yes, the long term is the most important. I still believe that, but there's folks out there that have experienced quite a bit of pain, a lot of pain in the last, say, 6 to 12 months. And I think it's very important to have that lens, especially as somebody that's communicating out to the investing public, because if I'm not able to connect with you in that perspective, then what I'm telling you is not of value, because you don't trust that I know what you're going through, right? And I think for anything really in life, I think this is a very important lesson that I've relearned. And maybe I've never really learned fully as much as I should, but I'm taking this time to really drill into my head. And moving forward, I'm going to keep that in mind. Totally going to keep that in mind. Just because I was invested in 2012 and now I've been able to build this incredible life off of that, great. But what about everybody else who, started buying in 2021 at the highs, and now they're down 50%? We both invested in the same freaking thing, but a lot of folks are not getting the results that I got. I feel like that's kind of like, if I'm not connecting with that, that's a disservice to my viewing public. So I'll do better on that for sure. If for some reason that wasn't, of course in my head, I'm sympathetic, but outwardly is really what matters. And so you have my word that I'm going to try my absolute best to be much more cognizant of that, so that I can share ideas maybe more impactfully, if that's a word, to you, in hopes that you believe and trust that I have your best interest in mind. Even though I'm not here to give anybody financial advice, I really feel like lived experiences are very important. And if you trust me, then I feel like that's more valuable. So I'll definitely keep that in mind. And for those that feel like I haven't done a good job with that, you're right. And I'll make sure to continue improving on that moving forward. So thank you very much for being patient with me in that respect. And then the last one, which I think all of us can learn. I need to stop looking at my computer and phone so much. And especially in these downturns, especially if I feel confident that my investments are in a good place. Yes, I could do better in certain approaches. I shouldn't be glued to the stocks and the charts nearly as much as I should have, that I am. I should go out and experience life a little bit more. Yes, I'm growing a community. Yes, it's important for me to be on Twitter, on YouTube, and creating content and making sure that I'm connecting with my community. But I could do much better in connecting with real life and really experiencing what it means to be alive. It's not always about money. It's not always about investing in companies. It's not always about Tesla and what Elon Musk is doing. And of course, we can be blue in the face at how great of a person this guy is and how brilliant he is. But in the end, he's a human being doing his thing. And I want to experience what I have around me as well. And I need to do a better job at that. And I think that's going to help me level set myself a little bit more for my mental, right? It's important to have a clear mental, especially during the bear market. And I've talked about this. If you have a clouded judgment because of the stressors in your life, you're not going to be able to make the right decisions. And the best way to do that, I believe, is not just to kind of disconnect yourself from things that could put you in a crappy mental, but also just engaging the life around you and trying to hang out more with friends, hang out more with family, your wife, your kids, if you have kids, eating food, cooking food, growing stuff. I don't know, man, like whatever you like to do, playing guitar, go running, right? Sit on the grass and just touch grass for a little bit. I think that's a meme, right? Do mushrooms. I don't freaking know. Yeah, man, that's a big reminder for me. So I hope that, I'm trying to be as honest and vulnerable as humanly possible. I really think ultimately that's the best value people can bring to each other, is if we're allowing ourselves to be vulnerable with each other, and in hopes that what I'm sharing with you is helpful. And if we can connect in that in some form with that, I'm very happy in case it's helpful. And in case it's not, I hope my sort of things are things that you can take away, that you can apply to your life, that are helpful. So thank you so much for watching. Super appreciate you. I think I'm going to do more self-reflections in the future. I think they're important. I think it's I think we need to do it more as a community, especially in the Tesla community. I think it's very easy to get lost in how great and world-changing this company is going to be, and it already has been. How game-changing the leader is, and Elon and all that good stuff. But it's not always perfect. It's not always great. It sure as hell is not easy. And I think we need to recognize these facts. We can't just brush them away to the side and refocus ourselves. We are all human beings. We all feel, we all go through pain, and a little bit of empathy, sympathy, and ensuring that we are being honest with each other from that perspective is super important. So thank you so much. I hope this is helpful. We'll see you on the next one. Take it easy, everybody. Love you guys.